Welcome to Everything You Need to Know About the Ascension of Humanity, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern science and spiritual evolution gets real. I'm Heather, an energy healer, channel, and spiritual coach with Divine Ascension Company. Each week, we're diving deep into the mysteries of human consciousness, spiritual awakening, and the profound transformation happening within us and around us. But here's the thing. We're not doing this with our heads in the clouds. We're bringing neuroscience, psychology, quantum physics, and cutting-edge research to the table alongside meditation, energy work, and timeless spiritual teachings. Because the truth is, the ascension of humanity isn't some far-off cosmic event. It's happening right now in the choices we make, the awareness we cultivate, and the healing we do within ourselves. Whether you're curious about how mindfulness literally rewires your brain, why shadow work is backed by depth psychology, or what coherence between your heart and mind actually means scientifically, you're in the right place. We'll explore practices like breathwork, meditation, and emotional alchemy, not as abstract concepts, but as tangible tools grounded in both spiritual wisdom and scientific understanding. And here's where it gets even better. In our bonus episodes, you'll hear from real people sharing real stories. These are the warriors, the healers, the everyday seekers who've walked through their own darkness and found their light. They'll share their breakthroughs, their struggles, and the resources that actually helped them along the way. Because personal growth isn't a solo journey, and you deserve to know you're not alone. So whether you're just beginning to question the nature of reality, or you're deep in your spiritual practice, this podcast is your companion on the path. It's time to expand, to awaken, and to rise together. Let's begin. What happens when a biology professor starts seeing UFOs and hearing messages from Arcturian beings? Today's guest, Dr. Lisa Thompson, took one of the most unconventional career paths imaginable. From traditional academia, where she couldn't express her spiritual insights, through interior design, to becoming a spiritual healer who runs UFO tours in Hawaii and channels healing energies from higher dimensional realms. Raised in a metaphysical household with early extraterrestrial contact experiences, Lisa's journey includes hand analysis that revealed her spiritual calling, creating the Infinity Healing Method that integrates past life regression and sound healing, and discovering that a Viking ancestor was causing heart disease patterns throughout her entire family line. We're exploring why Hawaii is a hotspot for UFO activity and Lemurian connections, how past life traumas create fears and behaviors in this lifetime, why the media's fear-based portrayal of extraterrestrials is misguided, and how healing yourself ripples backward through generations. If you've ever wondered whether science and spirituality can coexist, or if our star family is really here to help us ascend, this conversation will open your mind to extraordinary possibilities. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of Everything You Need to Know About the Ascension of Humanity. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Lisa Thompson. She has a really interesting story and lots of really cool things that she's doing over in Hawaii. How are you doing today, Lisa?
I am doing great, Heather. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Awesome. It is a pleasure to have you. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I have quite a diverse background. Number one, I grew up in a metaphysical, spiritual household. So my mother was an astrologer. All her friends were psychics, tarot card readers, astrologers, numerologists. And then when I was 13, we moved from Oklahoma City to Washington State to attend a spiritual school of enlightenment, where then I was starting to learn about higher consciousness, things outside of this physical 3D Earth reality, multidimensional reality, extraterrestrials, and all things outside of normal mainstream. And with that, though, I was having really incredible spiritual experiences and regular ET contact. And my first conscious memory of being taken onto a spacecraft was when I was 15, and I was still actively a part of that spiritual school. But that didn't come into play until later in life after a very windy career through. I have a PhD in biology, so I was a professor for a couple of years. Then, when I left academia, a 5 year stint in the mortgage industry, 12 years as an interior designer and home stager with the business. And I've been doing my spiritual business now for 8.5 years. And I do multidimensional healing, past parallel life regression therapy, human design, and my ETs have given me my own healing method that's called the Infinity Healing Method.
Hmm.
And I started really working with my galactic team almost 5 years ago. So I've been in Hawaii now for 5 solid years from Olympia, Washington. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And that's quite the diverse, even group of jobs you've got there. I thought I was bad. Mine have been all over the place too. Um, but before we move on, what was it like to transfer from the academia scientific field into the more spiritual? And I know you've been around the spirituality your whole life, but as a career and just as an adult and the way your mind thinks, because it's very different, how was that kind of shift for you?
Yeah, it was actually quite interesting because when I was going through college and graduate school, I was not actively part of my spiritual school that I had been through my teen years. And I got reintroduced to it when I was doing my postdoc before I became a professor. And really at that time, the school was teaching about quantum mechanics and brain physiology, the science underlying the spiritual woo-woo stuff. And so for me as a trained scientist, I thought it was amazing. And yet, still, some of my grad student cohorts and people in academia, when I would share even the science underlying the spiritual stuff that I was experiencing, they thought I was crazy. And
Wow.
so I didn't really feel supported in academia, and I didn't get into academia to actually teach. I didn't, that wasn't my end goal, was to be a professor. I was just obsessed with the animals and wanted to learn more and more and more about them. And so when I left academia, I think it was a huge shock for everyone that I had been in school with, everyone in my field that I knew from around the country and even internationally, and then my family. They were like, "You put all of this time and effort into this. Why are you doing that?"
Mhm.
And it was like that journey was complete. And it wasn't until so that I left academia in 2002, and so it wasn't until 2017 when I started my spiritual business. So there was quite a gap there in terms of me coming to a place where I was even inspired to start the spiritual business.
Right. And it takes a lot. I can speak from my own experiences too. It's, yeah, it's an adventure for sure. So do you find that your education in biology and science has helped you in your spiritual path?
I think all of the different careers that I have had have contributed to me being very well-rounded in terms of understanding how people think,
Mhm.
um, what fears come up, and biology, certainly, there's an aspect that I use scientifically in the different modalities that I do. So, I mean, all of the things have culminated into this spiritual business.
Yeah.
And so even one of the books that I wrote, Sacred Soul Spaces, Designing Your Personal Oasis, in that book, I'm combining my science with my design, with the spiritual underlying tones and energy. And so I've been able to really mesh everything together.
It's amazing how that works too, because I mean, I truly feel like everything happens for a reason, but but even for me, like bartending, working for a catering company, working at a casino, um, working in an office job, like all of these things kind of help build this bigger picture. And even though it seems completely unrelated, it truly does help build that wider perspective of things and kind of how you treat your modality, how you interact with other people and kind of move forward in this space. It's very interesting how that all kind of plays out.
Yeah, definitely. And my traditional training in academia. So my degree is in marine biology, zoology, evolutionary biology. And what's kind of crazy is that what I was teaching my students regarding evolution and all of that, now from my galactic team, I have a very different understanding
Hmm.
than what traditional academia says about animals and humans and all of that. And so I I'm like a complete 180 away from that side of things.
Right. So you brought up your galactic team and this infinity healing. Can you share any more about that modality for you?
Yeah. So how the spiritual business came to fruition was, I think it was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I had a session that was a scientific hand analysis session. And it's kind of like palm reading, but a little bit different. And the practitioner who was doing this, she also had an offer for doing it for my kids. She said sometimes, kids follow in the path of their parents, and you can see that in the hands.
Oh, wow.
And so I got that done for us, and we all three of us, me and my two children, we all have a 1% marking in the palm of our hand that is, we're here to be spiritual teachers and healers. And at the time that I had this done, I had a very successful interior design home staging business. I had no reason to change careers at all. But when she said that to me, my body reacted. I had full head to toe chills. And so that was my body's way of telling me, okay, there's something about this. You
Right.
need to pay attention. And at the time, I was also, I had a human design coach. And what I had learned about my personal human design, I'm a sacral generator. And so as a generator, my job is to wait for an opportunity to come my way, and then my gut will instantly say yes or no. So I knew with the spiritual healing stuff that I would just have to wait for that right opportunity. So I wasn't searching for something, and it took a couple years for that thing to come across my path. So the very first modality that I got trained in is past life regression therapy. And that was the little seed that got planted that then I got trained in human design. I was called to get trained in sound healing. And in October of 2021, so I'd already moved here to Hawaii. I had a session with this lady on one of the other islands where she activated me, part of my galactic side. And when I came out of that session, I just started channeling light language coming through my hands. My hands were just going wildly crazy. And in 2022, I actually started vocally channeling my Arcturians. And now I know it's my Arcturian self that I channel. And in the Arcturian realm, I'm a master healer. And so once I knew that that Arcturian was me, and I understood the meeting that I had with him in October of 2018 for the very first time. So it was baby steps. It was a
Mhm.
culmination, but that Arcturian energy was channeling through me to my clients, and my sessions took on a whole new thing.
Wow.
And then, so once I got used to their energy, then my Syrian team and my Mantis team, they came into play in the healing sessions. And so it was like these three different ET groups channeling through me, and they're all aspects of myself. And that's ultimately what created the Infinity Healing Method. I only got the name at the beginning of this year. I was calling it other things,
Hmm.
but I settled on that name. It came to me very clearly in a session with one of my mentors. So, yeah, so it's a culmination of things that I've learned, but then I also channel directly from those higher dimensional realms.
That's amazing. So a couple things. First, do you mind telling me what that 1% palm symbol looks like on your hand?
Yeah. So it is if you're looking at your palm, the outer edge by your pinky and
Okay.
down by where the wrist is,
Okay.
um, that part of your palm, if you're looking at it, so the 1% marking that we have, there's actually what looks like fingerprints inside of that. So um, and the way that it's specifically looped. And so some people have it on one hand, some people have it on both hands, and there are slight differences in what it could be, depending on how that fingerprint configuration is. So just to
Awesome.
give an example, like my daughter, hers is just a very simple spiritual teacher. So that could be something like a therapist, a counselor,
Mhm.
or it could be more in the spiritual realm. My son, his presented more like a spiritual business, like super successful spiritual business kind of persona, kind of like a Tony Robbins.
Okay.
Uh, so that's what his showed, and
Mhm.
mine was just a successful spiritual healer and teacher.
Awesome.
So just slight nuances there.
Yeah, I was only curious because I've heard other people talk about different like the M in the palm because I have the M on both of my palms. And then there's like one or two other ones that I've heard about as well that I seem to have most of the ones that I've heard about. I'll have to look at my palms to see if there's any um correlation there. Just out of curiosity.
Okay.
But I did get my human design chart read and I'm a manifestor time bender, but I honestly have no idea what that means.
Okay. So I've not heard
I'm
time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it said it was. I'll have to look it up and share it with you later because I printed out the whole thing that like explains all of the numbers on the chart and stuff, but I it's like reading a textbook. Like I have no idea what's going on.
Oh yeah. No, I spent a few years training with my human design coach to be able to understand all of the different things and be able to do sessions for clients. So it's pretty in depth.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a bunch of different modal like light language, sound healing, the human design. Did you learn all of those things at that school that you went to, or did you have to kind of take additional classes afterwards?
Yeah, that spiritual school that I was attending, that actually we were learning different disciplines, such as a certain way to meditate. And we would do a lot of blindfolded stuff to really work on enhancing our clair abilities, as well as doing remote viewing and telepathy and things like that. So very different than the modalities that I do. So I had to do completely separate training for all of the things that I actually do in my business. So the spiritual school was more of just a personal kind of learning how to do things to be more psychic and deeper spiritually and really understand about timelines and shifting timelines
Hmm.
and ascending. So,
It still sounds very interesting. And it's funny because I live in Cheney. I live right near Olympia. So I'm curious to know if they're still open. I mean, it probably wouldn't be worth it for me to go because I feel like it's very basic, opening your skills and stuff like that I've kind of already gone through. But I'd be curious to see if it is still open. Just I don't know. I'm a
well,
naturally curious person.
it's called the Ramtha School of Enlightenment,
Hmm.
and it's out of Yelm, Washington. And I believe the school is still open. for people to attend, and it's more more than what I've shared. But the lady Jay-Z Knight, who channels Ramtha, she's pretty up there in age. I think she's probably around 80 now. And so I don't know if she's still actively channeling the information or if it's just some of the teachers at the school that are teaching the material. I've been out of it. Actually, I left the school back when I was pregnant with my daughter. So Ramtha named my daughter when she was 5 months in my belly. And that was the last event that I ever attended. And she's 19 and a half now.
Gotcha. Wow. So I know that you do this whole UFO sightings thing over there. Can you tell us more about that? This is very fascinating to me.
Yeah, I when I moved here to Hawaii, so when I was in Olympia, number one, I was simultaneously running my spiritual business with my home staging interior design business. So I was still trying to be mostly normal so that my real estate agents and builders would take me seriously. But
Hmm.
when I moved here to Hawaii, I let that side go and I could fully step into who I really am.
Hmm.
And when I got to the island, so I live on the big island of Hawaii, and I'm in the desert part of the island. So we mostly have nice clear skies. We also have a dark sky ordinance because my little town sits at the foot of Mauna Kea, which that's our big mountain that has all the telescopes, the observatories at the top. And so we can't have light pollution to interfere with the telescopes. So with that, I would be outside at night looking at the night sky, and my husband, who moved here to the island with me, we'd be laying in the hammock looking up, and there were these spacecraft just popping out all over the place. And so a couple of years prior to that, we had gone to Sedona, Arizona. I took the family for spring break, and Sedona has a lot of UFO activity, and they have several tour operators that do UFO tours. So I had signed us up for one of those UFO tours, and that planted the seed. So when I'm seeing now living in Hawaii, I'm seeing all of these spacecraft. I had the idea, oh, let's start a UFO tour business under my spiritual business. And I could come from it from my own experiences with the ETs and understanding, as well as there's a very strong Hawaiian connection with the ETs, with the galactics, and we're also part of Lemuria. And so there's a really strong Pleiadian connection with Hawaii, with Lemuria. And so I started the tour back summer of 2021. And so it's been 4 full years plus now. And what I do is I train people how to identify all the known moving objects in the sky that have very predictable behaviors, like airplanes, helicopters, satellites, shooting stars. And then once they understand what all of that very predictable behavior looks like, then we use Generation 3 military night vision goggles to look at the night sky, and we can see all those known things. And then people can really appreciate the very weird, cool, anomalous stuff
Hmm.
in the sky.
That's amazing. That's truly awesome. So did you have any cool experiences when you were in Sedona?
Well, actually, the night that we did that UFO tour, before we even got the goggles out, because on that tour, that's how I even knew Generation 3 military night vision goggles existed. And so before we got the goggles out in Sedona, there were a few of us, maybe a handful of us that were on the tour that saw a very large orange glowing orb out in the distance.
Wow.
And it was very clearly not something in that known category. And, it was just there for a few seconds and then it blipped out. And then when we drove to another spot to look through the goggles, and we got to see some pretty amazing activity. And again, on that tour, that's how I got trained, how I learned about all those known moving behaviors
Hmm.
so that I could teach about that. And then I did more research too before I started my tour. But yeah.
Awesome.
And Sedona has real big vortex energy, portal energy,
Hmm.
and it really stirs stuff up in people and relationships. So
Hmm.
it can be a testing thing. And that trip with the family was definitely a big test for us.
Wow.
But the big island of Hawaii is very similar energy to that. So it really stirs stuff up that wants to be revealed and healed.
Mhm.
And some people can't hang with that energy and they get spit off the island.
Yeah.
Or I know we haven't talked about this part yet, but just over 2 years ago, my husband, out of the blue, committed suicide. And I think part of it was the energy of the island here.
Wow. And I would assume that that's, uh, do both of those land on ley lines? Are they ley line related?
I believe so,
Yeah,
yes.
I thought so too. Because
Yeah.
I just went to Egypt and I'm getting ready to go to Stonehenge for Christmas because I'm slowly making my way towards these sacred sites to do my own spiritual work. And Egypt was the same way. And we saw actually a bunch of activity in the skies there, but it wasn't super obvious. Like we didn't have goggles or anything, so it wasn't like we could really see, but there's a way that you can look and still be able to see a little bit, and
Mhm.
if you're open-minded to it. And that was really cool. That was really interesting. And I'm curious to see in Stonehenge because there's much less lights out there. If we end up seeing anything, I'm really excited about that. Um,
Yeah. I was at Stonehenge back in 2000,
okay.
so 25 years ago, and then I was in Egypt last year.
Mhm.
So yeah, pretty incredible,
Yeah,
Egypt.
Sedona's definitely on my list. I think the next one I go to is going to be Mount Shasta, though. That one's been calling to me for quite a while.
That one's calling to me too. I can't believe I've never been there, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's going to be my next mainland kind of trip.
Yeah, I definitely want to get there in the spring. Um, I have connections to Lemuria and yeah, I don't know what it is about Mount Shasta, but the there was a TV show that came out. It was Unsolved Mysteries, like the newer edition of that, I guess. And there was a lot of like Bigfoot and UFO stuff on that season. And they talked about Mount Shasta, and something inside of me just clicked, and I was like, I need to go there. I need to go there. And through meditation, I went to the halls of Amenti and found this book that has had all of this information about Mount Shasta that was there for me to like download to help me for when I go on this trip. And that was a few months ago. Um, so I definitely need to get down there. And they showed me in a meditation where there's a doorway in the mountain to get inside to see the Lemurians and all of the inner earth beings that are there. And it's a big UFO hub as well. And I'm like, man, I really hope they let me in there. Like, I'm ready. Like, let's go. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to see how that ends up playing out. It's going to be fun.
Well, if you get there before I do, you'll have to let me know.
Or we
I
could go at the same time.
Yeah, maybe we could. We could get
There we go. That would be great. That would be super fun. So, since you have been introduced to your galactic team, how have you noticed that it has changed not just your business, but your life in general?
Yeah, that's a really great question because I met my Arcturians back in October of 2018, and the situation was I was taking a psychic intuition class for several months, but this was the first night of class, and our teacher led us through a meditative journey to meet a spirit guide that would help us get extra information if we needed it. Now, I was already trained as a regression therapist and had met some of my spirit guides, but they were humans and animals. But this time was completely different, where I went to a different realm, and in front of me are a group of these Arcturian blue skinned beings. And their message to me was, you are one of us, we are one of you, we are family.
Wow.
And then we were asked if they had a name they wanted to be called. And the one that was the spokesperson gave me the name Uluru. And it turns out that that was me, that Uluru. So I didn't know that back then. And it took me moving here to Hawaii and starting that UFO tour to actually understand why I had met the Arcturians, because I was still, again, trying to be really normal back in Washington.
Hmm.
And even though I was having experiences, I wasn't telling anyone about them. And so when I got here and started the tour, then I was getting information from them that I personally needed to completely stay out of politics, no longer watch the news, stay out of the media, anything that was polarized,
Hmm.
because what they wanted me to do was really have a clean environment within my body, my energy field, my mind, to be able to channel them more clearly. But also, they wanted me to really understand from a higher perspective that our polarized experiences here in third density Earth, really, it's just a mechanism of evolution. And because we are infinite beings, this human life that we're living is one of many infinite lives that we live. And
Hmm.
there really is no right or wrong, good or bad,
Right.
ultimately.
Hmm.
And so that completely transformed my life personally by, um, and like I was able to hold a higher frequency vibration. I was able to really start clearing away the judgments of myself that I was carrying. And then that allowed me to no longer judge other people for their behaviors, the things they said, the things they do,
Hmm.
and really see humanity with so much compassion, empathy, and love in a way that I had never experienced before. Because in my younger life, I was very politically active, very judgmental about things that were different than what I understood. And so for me, it's made me a better human.
Yeah. And it's amazing how programmed we are to be judgmental. Like that's just part of human nature so far. And I'm not trying to excuse it because I mean, but it's part of the human experience. And similar to your story, like staying out of the news, staying out of the social media, staying out of the politics, staying out of that true separation and duality has made such a big difference. Like you said, with that compassion and looking at people from a different lens. And not only that, but like learning that we are all one and that we are all just extensions of the same thing. It really changes how you look at people and how you interact with people and the things that you can have more understanding about with their thoughts, actions, words, behaviors, and kind of be like, okay, well, you're just having this experience, and I respect that. Like, we're good, but also still have those healthy boundaries, right? And
Oh,
it's amazing how different life can be when you reach that point.
yeah, it is. Well, and when we start, we only judge people because we have judgment within ourselves.
Right.
And that can stem from guilt, from
Mm.
shame, from perfectionism, and similar kinds of things. And so the more that we do that inner work to heal those things within ourselves, then we really can come from a more loving, heart place as a human. And that's what, in my understanding, is what helps us ascend to that higher vibrational level that we are in the process of doing.
Absolutely. Because I mean, it's as they say, as above, so below, as within, as so without, but it all starts within. So it's all about that inner healing, that inner work, getting through your old traumas and wounds from this lifetime and past lifetimes that might have carried over. I know I had a past life regression QHHT session where I was buried alive in a past life. And the townspeople who buried me um, were actually members of my soul tribe who were willing to help me learn the lesson of compassion. And
Mm.
some of that trauma carried over into this life because I was afraid of the dark. Like I wouldn't even let my pillow touch my nose when I was sleeping. I couldn't sit with my back to the door in a restaurant. I wouldn't go in the ocean past where I could see the bottom. Like I didn't like anything touching my face. Like and since I've healed that past lifetime, it's incredible how quickly, because I do ghost hunting. I go out in cemeteries at night a lot, but I would never go by myself. And then I slowly started like trying to go by myself and just stay out a little bit longer. And I would go on the full moon because it was the brightest. And then I would just stay a little bit longer and I would just talk to the spirits because it's my imagination that I'm afraid of. That's how it
Yeah.
manifested in this lifetime. So if I don't hear anything because I'm talking, it helped me like stay a little bit. But as soon as I healed that lifetime, almost immediately, like I'm not afraid of the dark anymore. Like I have none of those weird um fears anymore. And it's amazing how impactful that was.
Yeah, it's incredible work because when we can get to the root cause, and generally it is not from this current lifetime.
Mhm.
Most of people's traumas or stuck emotions or blockages, they are from other lifetimes that are bleeding through into this time. And so because we have the ability to access those different lifetimes, and get to the root cause, then what that does is when you understand what happened from a higher perspective, or you can even rewrite the story
Hmm.
of it. But what that does is it starts to rewire the brain like immediately coming out of it. And that's why people like you and me and my clients, why we have such amazing results from doing that deep hypnosis regression work.
And it's cool because even if someone isn't interested in learning about past lives or even believes that past lives are a thing, I'll give them the gracious space for that. But through my work, like I had a client the other day that I was helping heal things from past lives that bled into this lifetime. And even from my own personal experience, it was all different childhood traumas that each incarnation would have the same, not exactly the same, but similar childhood traumas until she healed that. And we were able to do the healing for this lifetime. And that energy ripples back in time and you change
Yeah.
that, like you said, rewrite the story and change that energy for in past lifetimes. And for me, I'm a generational curse breaker. So I've healed a lot of my own trauma that I've been through in this lifetime and rippled it back through my ancestors to kind of heal that for everyone else. And it's amazing. It still amazes me. I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. It
Me
amazes
too.
me how
Yeah.
how that this is possible and that it's just it all starts with that healing and you don't even have to, this is what I try to tell people, you don't have to re-experience the trauma. You
Mm-mm.
can look at it as a passive observer. You can, it's like watching a movie. You don't have to inhabit that energy, but you have to kind of figure out what those lessons are, or they're just going to keep repeating, whether it's from this lifetime or a last past lifetime, because most likely the trauma you went through in this lifetime is because of a past lifetime. And you can send those ripples back and just change so much inside and even in your outer world, the way you act, the way you think, the way you behave, because it's truly, I don't know, it's just truly fascinating to me how as I learn and go through my journey and help clients and stuff, like it's every experience is very different and I still learn and it's just I don't know, it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, well, I'm very similar. I'm that generational
Mhm.
curse breaker too.
Yeah.
And in my family, so on my mom's side, there was a pattern of heart disease. So my granddaddy, he passed away at age 65 of heart disease. My uncle Randy, he passed at the age of 65 with heart disease. My mother had her first major heart attack at age 65, and
Wow.
my aunt had her first major heart attack at age 65.
That's
And
crazy.
what's even weirder is every one of them month of September.
Wow.
So now, when my aunt had her heart attack, she was the final one, and they had a younger brother who wasn't quite 65 yet.
Mhm.
So my cousin, only one of my cousins understands the work that I do. And so I'm like, Allie, we need to do a clearing of our ancestral line. We're going to stop this.
Ah,
and and so she let me do a session with her because I knew that whether it was her or me or any of our family that we could do this work.
hmm.
And so we were able to get to the root ancestor who really, like, heart disease is all about lack of self-love.
Yep.
And so we got to the root ancestor who was many generations back, and it was this Viking that came through. And we didn't even know we had Viking lineage at that time. Now, since I've done my ancestor DNA, and there actually is Viking lineage, so it's kind of crazy. But
Hmm.
this Viking comes through, we're able to heal him, and that ripples through everything. And my my uncle, who would have been next in line to have his heart attack, and he was, really unhealthy too. So he would definitely had the right traits to have a heart attack. He didn't have his heart attack. And I'm the oldest of the cousins. So, and I'm turning 53 this month. So, I'm not quite 65, but I already know like it's healed, it's
Yeah.
done.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's been a journey because on both sides of my family, there has been a lot of sexual abuse, sexual trauma. There's been alcoholism. There's been oppression of women. There's been um, poverty. There's been all these things. And it's each, like, I didn't take the same approach. I didn't find the root cause, but because I went through a lot of those similar traumas, um, in my lifetime, I was able to do it kind of the opposite way, where I healed myself and sent the ripples back rather than going back and sending the ripples forward. So
Okay.
the fact that you could do it either way, like I said, you
Yeah.
could do past lifetimes, you could do past generations. It's, I don't know, it's amazing to me. I could talk about this for hours. It's
Yes.
awesome.
And it's all based at the quantum level.
Hmm.
It's amazing. Yes.
And I love the fact that science is because quantum science has always kind of been a thing, but it was very suppressed. And the fact that a lot of scientists and physicists and even astronomists, sorry, are going more into the quantum theories and the quantum research and finding, like I keep seeing these little nuggets online, these different articles about how, I mean, we're still just at the very tip of the iceberg, but the fact that they're starting to do more to kind of validate in the scientific community some of these spiritual concepts that we're talking about is really reassuring to me. And I'm really excited to see how that unfolds as well.
Yeah, I think it's helping mainstream society understand spirituality in a way that it really hasn't.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And did you see the new documentary that just came out? I haven't watched it yet, but it's called The Age of Disclosure.
I did
Uh,
see it.
did you? How was it?
Um, okay. I Parts of it I think were really good, but I am not a proponent at all that we need to perceive the UFOs, UAPs as a threat,
Oh,
which
oh,
this
okay.
movie is really geared. Well, the main person who is put this movie together is Lou Elizondo. And coming from a military background himself and government guy, um, that is how he sees this,
Seems
that we need we
counterintuitive.
need we need to perceive it as a threat. It
Okay.
is completely my understanding that if the ETs wanted to take over or hurt us, do
They would have done
anything
it way
a
long ago.
long time ago,
And they
right?
wouldn't be making themselves known. They would do it and take us by surprise. Like that's the number one rule of warfare, right? You catch your
Yes.
enemy by surprise. And they're so far advanced technologically, intellectually, dimensionally that really, like, come on. They would have taken us over a long time ago. That's not what they're here for. I did watch a Netflix or a Prime documentary the other day. It was called Phenomenon, and it was actually about the government cover-ups and the UFOs starting with 1947 and kind of working its way forward. And they did not take that perspective. They did mention that some of the military people thought that they might be a threat, but they nixed that idea like kind of near the beginning. So this was a very much more pleasant experience to watch, I would say. But it really kind of opens your eyes to, because there was a lot, like I knew about Area 51, I knew about Roswell to a degree, but there was so much more in there about the different military people coming forward about things that they've seen and stuff that was covered up, and these senators and stuff who are actually pro UFO like research and stuff and don't think that it's a threat. And so that was really cool to see because it really opened up a lot more of what has already happened that I didn't know about. And I would probably recommend watching that one instead.
Yes. Well, and that's part of why I do the UFO tours and why I teach classes about the ETs and I lead retreats because my one of my big missions here is to change that fear-based narrative of the media, of Hollywood, of the government,
Hmm.
and so that people really understand who these beings really are. Now, I'm not going to say that 100% of the ETs out there are all benevolent, friendly guys. No,
Right.
of course not, because you do have some groups that are very polarized, like we are as humans. You
Mhm.
can't say all humans are evil or all humans are loving, because
Right.
we're not.
No.
And so there are going to be individuals within certain races that are third, fourth dimensional, like we are, that might have an agenda that we would perceive as malevolent. Now, from their perspective, it's not though.
Right.
But then,
But from our perspective, we're not either, and we totally are. So, I mean,
yeah,
not malevolent, but having that duality and that opposite sides of the scale, right? But that's
yes.
part of the universe too, is like you can't appreciate the light or have the light without darkness. So it's all part of the experience.
It
From
is,
what
and
I
that's part of
Go
why
ahead.
we come here to Earth School,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because in those higher dimensional realms, everything is love. Love is
Right.
the basis of everything. They all know that they're connected,
Mm-hmm.
and so we choose to come play down here in Earth School to forget who we really are, and then to remember and awaken to
Mm-hmm.
who we really are
Yep.
and play on these different continents and these different countries with these different physical costumes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And from what I understand, from my own research, but also from channeled messages that I've received, is that there are malevolent races out there, and there's the reptilians, the draconians, all of that, and the cabal, all the things that are happening right now that people are talking about. But and there might be one or two still scattered around, but from what I understand, because it's source's divine plan for us to go through this ascension, and these ETs that are around that are helping us are kind of reinforcement officers, if you will, because these malevolent beings aren't allowed to be here anymore because it is decreed that we are going to go through this ascension. They have helped, keep asteroids away. They have helped, you know, malfunction nuclear weapons and things to make sure that we don't destroy each other because this
Right.
is the plan. So, from what I understand, none of those malevolent beings are even allowed to be here or be around here anymore. So,
Yeah,
there really isn't anything to be afraid of at this point.
there isn't. And one thing that I do want to clarify and this is from my understanding and experience, is that when we talk about groups in big categories like reptilians, there are so many different types of reptilian races that come from different star systems.
Hmm.
So even though there might be a specific group of reptilians that we would perceive as malevolent, it's not all reptilians. And so I know a lot of the people who are learning or hearing about this ET stuff from people that like peddling the fear-based
Hmm.
information. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but you know, we get to choose what our reality is. And so do you want to be in a fear-based reality or do you want to be in love? So these reptilians, they're not across the board,
Mhm.
all malevolent, and even the Dracos.
Mhm.
This is actually one thing that super cool that came through. So me as Arcturian Uluru, my lifetime was during the time of the Orion Wars when the Dracos were taking over the galaxy. And my role in that was I had this very hidden outpost in the Cassiopeia area of our galaxy where I had this healing center where draconians and others that were part of the dark who were ready to transform and ascend to the light, they could come to me with, I would have no judgment whatsoever, and I would help heal them and help them ascend to the light. And so even though we want to lump the Dracos all as like,
Mhm.
they're controlling and evil, again, there are individuals that definitely are, and then there are other individuals that are completely in love.
Right.
So I just want to,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just want to clarify that for listeners that, even like the grays, you can't put them all in one category. They're different races of grays from different star systems too.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that because I 100% agree. And it's just like humanity. Like some of us
Yeah.
are, in light and love, and some of us are not. And you can't let one group of bad apples, say, ruin it for everybody because it is, even though we are all connected, there is still that individual choice, right, of how you want to live your life. And that's across the board. And it's interesting that you bring up the Orion Wars because during the Orion Wars, I was a Lyran
Okay.
and I was in the trenches, but as Lyra was being attacked, I was actually going through and I saved a whole bunch of people and brought them back. And they nominated me. I'm in the Lyran High Council now as a, I guess, elected official because of all the people that I saved. And when I first learned about this lifetime, because it's happening right now still, like my Lyran
Yeah.
consciousness went on vacation to come down to be in this consciousness to kind of learn what it was like to be poor, to learn what it was like to be on earth, to learn all these things.
Mhm.
And I went in meditation and went back to Lyra, and I have a very big relationship with Mother Gaia and with the elementals. And even in Lyra, I created this, it's called an aviary, but it's not for birds, it's for fairies. And it's like a place for them to come. It's like a healing center, a meeting place, all the things. And I had this huge garden, and I went into the garden, and these beings, these Lyran beings, started coming one by one and telling me these stories of how I saved their life because I don't remember anything from my past lives. I took the like 150% like forgetting package when I got here. So, but it was really cool to see and hear about all these things that I had done in another lifetime. And it was so heartwarming and just, I don't know, something else, man, something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what's so interesting is that a year ago I was on a podcast where the lady, she and her co-host, but she knew nothing about me. She didn't know the Arcturian thing at all, but she also remembers her full life as a Lyran during the time of the Orion Wars.
Hmm.
And she had written a book about it. And so in the middle of her show, she was like, I know you. And she and she's like, You're Arcturian. I said, Yeah. She said, You're a healer. I said, Yeah. She said, I wrote about you in my book.
Oh my God.
I
Wow.
know. I know. And so then she sends me the PDF of her book right after the show and I read it and I thought it was going to be really like generic, like some Arcturian healer, but
Mhm.
no, it was very specific. Master healer Arcturian Uluru and
Oh wow.
spelled correctly. And so like I already knew that that was me, but having someone else recognize me in the energy
That's crazy.
and there a bunch of us that she wrote about in the book are all now coming together again, and we're all over the world.
Hmm.
Uh, but we're coming together with these memories of that life, and it's bleeding through into this earth life because we each have very similar characteristics
Mm-hmm.
to our personalities in that Orion War life. So
Well,
it's,
that makes sense with what
yeah,
we're going through right now to bring that through for humanity. Absolutely. Wow.
yeah. So I love that you also were there.
Yeah, I was there for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know where I went after that, but yeah, I was in the trenches of Lyra. Yeah. Wow. Well, we are almost out of time. So why don't you tell us more about your services, your projects? What are you working on right now? Your UFO sighting tour? Give us some more info. How can we find you?
Yeah. Okay, well, so if anyone is coming to the Big Island of Hawaii, Kona side, Big Island is not Oahu or Honolulu is. A lot of people make that mistake. The
Mhm.
Kona side of the Big Island, then do come see me on one of my Big Island UFO tours. That's bigislandUFOtours.com. And then for all of my other services, so I do the past parallel life regression. I've got my infinity healing method. I connect people to meet their galactic family and guides. I have some evergreen courses, my Wisdom of the Galactic series, my Multidimensional Awakening series, my Love That Remains series. All of those are on my main website, which is mysticmanta.com or drlisajthompson.com. I am going to be teaching a certification program for Infinity Healing Method in early of 2026. So that's for people who are already in the healing profession that want to enhance their abilities even more. And a lot more good stuff is coming up in 2026. So I have a couple of free gift offers. One is my multidimensional awakening kit, which is 5 different meditative journeys to really help clear away things like your shame, your perfectionism, really come from a place of love, meet your higher dimensional guides, and shift to your highest timeline. And that also comes with an Ascension workbook PDF. So that's at awakenactivatenow.com, or it's also at the top of my main website. And then if anyone listening is going through the grief process, so I know we didn't get into it, but my husband, again, September of 2023, he committed suicide. He has come through many times from the other side to share wisdom, and explain things. And so I wrote a book about that through Lost into Light that just came out November 2nd. But I have created a free gift with that also, and that's at thelovethatremains.com. So a couple different freebies for people depending on where they are in their spiritual journey.
Awesome. That's amazing. And I would love to have you on again. This was amazing. I really enjoyed chatting with you and learning about all the things that you're doing. And, I totally have more stories that I can share with you as well. So I would
Yeah,
love
and I
to
have
have
a
you
lot
back.
more to share with you too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was serious about going to Mount Shasta together. It would be
Okay.
really cool because I mean we're both kind of the same distance apart, just in different directions. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that would be fun, super fun. But yeah, thank you so much for being on today. It was an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you. And yes, I will look forward to meeting you in person one day, Heather.
Awesome. Sounds good. And I Hawaii's on my list too. You never know.
Okay.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope something in this conversation resonated with you, and if it did, I'd love to stay connected. If you've been seeing repeated numbers everywhere and wondering what they mean, I created a free guide just for you. It breaks down the most common angel numbers and what your guides might be trying to tell you. You can grab that link at www.divineascensionco.com/angel-numbers. And if you're feeling called to work together, whether that's activating your mission, clearing what's blocking you, or just figuring out what the heck your soul is trying to tell you, let's chat. You can book a discovery call through the link in the show notes. I'll catch you on the next episode. Until then, trust what you know.